Welcome, everybody, to episode 18 of PT Shop Talk. Today, we have a very special guest, David Stensland, and to come on and talk about a little bit of powerlifting. We're also going to talk about our top 5 pump-up songs. I'm Casey Hansen. With me today is Nick Thunderstruck Doling and Jeremy Achy Breaky Heart Klompenberg. Van Klompenberg. Sorry.
Nailed it.
Trying to figure out what was going to be on your guys' top 5. I also thought about Jeremy, just the entire Space Jam soundtrack album, Van Klompenberg. I didn't know what was going to be on your guys' list. So
you're too creative, man. Michelle was trying to figure out why you called me Leatherface last week.
It's murdering, man. It wasn't even on your list. I should have said
no,
that for Ryan, I guess.
I'm not a Texas Chainsaw guy.
I thought you were going to do the dinner scene, but I was wrong. P.S. Bone Tomahawk or whatever is absolutely disgusting. Good choice. That was a horrifying scene.
You're welcome.
Oh my goodness. Jeremy, I assume you also went and watched it.
No, I got stuck on Bambi's parents getting killed, and that did it for me.
Yeah,
that did it for me.
Yeah, Nick failed to mention this man that gets chopped in half is absolutely naked, 100%. Not a piece of clothing on him. I thought that was an important step.
Very vulnerable.
yeah. Like maybe you mentioned that. And when he says they hang him upside down,
but Dave's new here, right? I mean, Dave doesn't know what we're talking about.
I'm trying to put it together now.
I made Dave watch every episode, like and subscribe. I made him go on
subscribe button.
I made him go on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, YouTube, and I made him create accounts.
He did, but there was no talk of chopping naked people in half.
Well, sometimes the podcast goes off the rails. I can't lie. It's horrible, and I'll
wait
never
till we get
watch
to
anything Nick recommends again. But yeah, David, I am so happy to have you on. Dave's a longtime friend of mine. We've known each other since you were a freshman, right?
Oh yeah, 99 probably when I started school in Maddock.
Yeah, Maddock High. Dave came over. He had a cool look, Harry Potter-esque glasses.
They're pretty bad, yeah.
Yep, real tight shaved on the side, but hair down your back.
I had like a big long mohawk. I was trying to go for like the Jason Newsted from Metallica look at the time.
Oh yeah.
It was shaved on the side.
Yeah. Failed.
Long top. Yeah.
Failed.
Yeah. Came out as a long-haired Harry Potter. So
yeah, you're a wizard, David. That's the first thing I said when I saw him. He had the leather trench coat. Dave played bass guitar, which nobody played in a band.
That's
at all,
awesome.
So
Slap at the bass, man. Yeah. Slap at the bass.
Slapped it hard. And now here you are, less Harry Potter but much stronger. So yeah, we invited Dave on today to talk about the world of powerlifting, because it's grown a lot, not only in our state of North Dakota, but I think just if you look at lifting, between powerlifting and strongman and everything, people are into it. It's exciting. And I think from a physical therapy standpoint too, I have lots of questions. I'm curious because I actually see a decent amount of patients when they first start out. From the initial training stuff, they ask me a lot about technique and things like that. So I wanted to get your take on that and what you thought about it, and what as we get into this whole history of David, we'll get to those parts. But how training's changed and how it's looked injury wise. Because I'm very familiar with you. You and I used to lift quite a bit. I mean, back when I was lifting way more than you.
Yeah, it was probably you were probably a sophomore, junior at the time when we first started working out together.
Yeah, sophomore. Yeah. Tell these guys about our lifting conditions when we first started.
Oh, the Maddock weight room?
Yeah, tell them about the Maddock.
What was your first taste? That's what I want to know.
Memorial weight room.
It was about the size of maybe a small living room.
Yeah, if you see my office back here, that's similar a size. Most of the weight room was taken up by the boiler for the school.
And then you had Havoc, all that stuff running through there. What a makeshift squat rack and bench.
Yeah, I think the squat rack was just I-beams welded together.
I'm pretty sure somebody in shop class must have made it, because
the bench was like a dead cow that you just laid on.
Right.
Leather
Yeah.
was
Hanson.
leather was questionable. We did have like a functional trainer like cable machine. That was cool, right?
Yeah, it had a couple stations on there. I remember.
Yeah. You could hang upside down and do sit-ups. That's about
Yeah.
all we knew about it.
I think there was a little military press on the one side.
Yep, lat pull down.
Yeah.
Did we have dumbbells? I don't even remember.
I don't think we did. I think what we had at the time was we had a few bars that you could put, like do easy, shorter bars like easy bar curls or something like that. But pretty raw.
None of our plates matched.
No,
Yeah.
I don't know where they even came from, but there was actually a few, a couple 45s. We were able to piece together something.
Yeah, I don't remember what our max was, but I would say somewhere around like 400 or 500 pounds of plates, because we'd do leg press and have like two dudes sitting on the leg sled just to add some weight. Because
pre-Instagram too.
Yeah, we posted it right to our MySpace page.
On the MySpace.
That's what we did back then.
That would have been about the era, right?
Yeah,
maybe a little pre-MySpace. I don't know.
It might be a little pre there, I think.
Yeah, Tom wasn't even my friend yet at that point. So.
No.
Well, we were talking before we cut that, maybe from we grew up not far away, fished in a lot of the same areas, up that way. And that's the same thing. Humble weight room is kind of where Carrington was at too back in those days. It was actually, as you were painting it out, very similar layout. As far as dimensions went, we had one hip sled that would kind of acquire all the plates, even though we had a squat rack, because that's obviously less sexy when you're in high school. But that was that. We had like a prone hamstring curl machine
that is the bane of my existence.
Just rusty, gotta have it in the right setting. Lat pull down machine, but
40 pounds was actually about 300 because of the rust.
Yeah, a couple benches, but I mean, it was very humble, very humble.
That's so interesting how things have changed now, because Dave and I both played football, but like on the football team.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah, right. Come on, guys.
You didn't have to say it.
Wink. Thanks, Nick. But we played 9-man football, but we had a pretty big team. I would say my senior year, maybe 30 some kids, which for 9-man is quite a bit. I would say kids that lifted weights,
handful,
less than 7.
Yeah. I mean, just you, Jarbo.
Yeah, that was about it. Some kids would come in once in a while and see what we were
doing.
Backstrom,
but when he wasn't locked out of the weight room.
Yeah, he was like one of these like blow snot guys, and I wasn't into that.
No.
Better hit this lift. Blow. It's like, dude, that is so gross.
And he did it everywhere. It didn't matter. It wasn't like,
Yeah.
I'm just imagining who that kid would be in Hogwarts, right? Like we got Harry and then Ron Weasley.
He was one of those Draco Malfoy bodyguard guys for sure. He fit that role great, actually. He was an interesting cat.
We're gonna have my daughter on as our next guest, and she can be like that.
We'll just talk Harry Potter. Pottercast. I like that. But yeah, that was man. What kind of lifting did we do back then, Dave?
Oh my God!
What did our programs look like?
And whatever Iron Man magazine you had for that month, you're probably writing it down on a notebook, because I was doing what you were doing, because I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah, I really didn't either. I thought I was really smart because I read Iron Man and I was like, I don't know, Arnold did this stuff, so that's cool. So like, yeah, we'd really like pick these most ridiculous workouts. It's like, oh, pump up your bench by 20 pounds. So we're doing like incline, decline, flat, flies, reverse flies. Like we did a million accessory motions. We were like lifting for 2 hours every morning just to do all this redundant work.
Just eerie like similarities, because we obviously didn't have a lot of good conducive training growing up. I'm basing it off of me in a same type of situation, maybe 6 or 7 of us consistently each summer, a lot of times hitting up the weight room, and then sometimes early in the morning. Basing our training off of the Flex magazine we get at Stop and Go.
Oh, you guys Flex, huh?
Lee Priest's 21-inch barbell or bicep program. And then you be like Kevin Levroni's tricep and shoulder workout. So it's all bodybuilding centric.
That's all we do too.
High volume. And then, you mentioned Jim Kleinsauce earlier, and that was our first exposure to cleans when he came back from college, and he was just like smashing some cleans up on our stage. Cause that was like,
what is this magic?
And we were like, oh my God, do you hear that plate hitting the ground? Coach is going to be so pissed.
Yeah, you're going to have to run laps after doing that.
We go up there and we see at the gym and we're like, all right, I'm an idiot. What are you doing?
Yeah. Never mind, Jim. Keep lifting. We love you.
Yeah. So you had the bug pretty early back freshman year?
Actually even earlier than that. Like I probably started lifting. I was probably 5th, 6th grade. Yeah. My dad must have picked it up at some like garage sale, and it was like one of those big weight benches with like the cement weights in the little plastic thing.
Yeah, I had those.
And they're like,
those are sweet.
Each plate was like a 15-pound kind of thing.
Yeah,
and, I was big into professional wrestling. Like, that was my thing. And I think probably 5th, 6th grade, I probably weighed 220. Maybe. With a green and blue mohawk, and so I was like, hey, I want to become a professional wrestler. So I'm trying to lift weights and all this stuff, and somewhere between then and starting high school, I lost like 70 pounds probably.
Yeah, I would say when you started in Maddock, you must have been
like 140, 150.
It's hard to imagine that you were 220. Wow. Like that was like that you were probably never bigger in your life than you were at 6th grade.
pretty close, because I'm 230 now and I was like 220.
Okay, I was gonna ask, you can't obviously through Zoom you can't really tell, so you're walking about 230.
Oh yeah, and even shorter than I am now.
And then you compete at, is it 220 you compete at?
I did usually do 220. I did a few 198s, but as of recently I've kind of found my sweet spot is like 242.
Yeah,
but I mean I'll just go in as at my walking around weight, like 228, 230. So I mean I got a ton of room to work with.
Gotcha.
But it was just one of those things where like when I was traveling for competitions, I was like, do I really want to cut, fly, do all this kind of stuff? And I'm like, I'm just gonna go in, lift nice and heavy, feel good. And those were the best meets I've ever had. So I just like, I'm sticking with this.
That's awesome. Smart way to go. Yeah.
What got you into powerlifting, Dave? I mean, I remember the beginnings of David Stensland, because you did.
It wasn't Iron Man magazine, because they were
they were not. Because did you do a bodybuilding contest, David?
No. What happened was, I was the weekend there was a bodybuilding show in town here in Fargo. I went with some guys from the gym that afternoon there was going to be a powerlifting competition. I'm like, oh well, I'll go check it out. So I tagged along, and I'm watching these guys lift, and I'm like, I can do that already. And I'm like, I'm not even training for this thing. I could walk up there now and outlift some of these guys.
Right. You were just concerned about how good you looked in your buckle jeans at that point, if I remember correct.
Yeah, pretty. My buckle jeans and my tight polo.
Some lucky dungarees.
Yeah. So after the competition, I go up to one.
Might have sold you those.
Oh,
that's true. Dave was a big buckle guy.
I was a big buckles. I think I had probably about 10, 15 pairs of those things.
I worked at that Fargo one for like 6 months back in college. I think you guys were probably still in high school though. But yeah, so you went to you saw this meet, kind of. Was it pretty good energy? Because I mean,
it was. This was my first like involvement of anything of this type. I've never, and I just seen what people were lifting. I'm like, oh, hey, I could do that. And I went and talked to a referee after the fact. I'm like, hey, when's the next one? I think I could do this thing. And no one could give me any information. I was like, oh, okay. Huh. Well, then I heard through the grapevine that there was going to be a competition at Shanley in Fargo. Okay. And I'm still asking people, no, nothing. I'm like, well, at the time, one of the teachers there, Leon Canodal, and who was from Pheasant area.
There's some last name rings a bell.
Pretty similar age, I would say, to you, just a hair older.
Yeah. So anyways, I asked him, I'm like, hey, what do you know about this? And he's like, oh, I know who's putting it on. Well, after, being no one telling me anything, I finally get a little bit of it, light on this thing. And I get a registration email to me. I fill it out. I have no idea what I'm getting into. So I'm watching YouTube videos on what's the rules, what do I got to do, kind of thing. Because I mean, otherwise, I'm like squat, bench, deadlift. I can do this.
And the first was this
familiar with
raw?
those.
Was it raw?
Yeah. I actually competed classic raw with knee wraps, and I had no idea how to put them on whatsoever, and I got nothing out of them, but they looked cool.
Yeah, I like that. It was just volleyball knee pads. You were a little
pretty much, yeah. So
I thought these were right.
So I went into this competition. I think I squatted like 527, like a 330 something bench, and like a low 5 deadlift, and there was like 4 or 5 guys, and I won, and I was like, hey, I'm not this, and so like after that they were like, oh, you got some pretty good lifts for it. I'm like, I've never done any of this before. So
more volleyball knee pads, man.
Yeah, so I kind of got the bug right off the bat. So
did you go?
So you didn't Ernie McCracken it and just retire on top? Big Dave was above the law.
So from a perspective standpoint, how many years ago was that, Dave?
That would have been 2016.
Okay.
So that would have
6 years deep into this thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So after that I kind of got the bug. And I mean, I'm just doing my own training thing. I mean, I'm not doing any kind of powerlifting program or nothing at the time. And I do a few meets here and there. I qualified for nationals. I go to nationals and I bombed out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I didn't get one squat, so it's like you're done.
Were they hitting you for, like, was it depth? Was that it? Or?
It was a little of everything. I ended up cutting weight and then flying to Vegas. I'm like in a sauna suit, sweatsuit, just miserable on the airplane to try and make weight.
Yeah.
And so I get there, and then
you had to turn down the peanuts.
Oh, I turned down everything.
No.
And I'm just miserable. I'm in a hoodie, sauna suit underneath, just as moist as you can be.
Moist, just damp.
So
like some sort of Vision Quest scene, I would assume.
Yeah. Well, you got me asking, like, because Casey or Jeremy, either of you guys ever wore a sauna suit?
Oh, I think I might have introduced Dave to the sauna suit. I wasn't even a wrestler and I had one. I thought they were cool. As a man who is habitually cold, it's like the best thing ever made.
I watched enough friends in high school cut like 45 pounds from football to wrestling. That no thanks.
I'm not promoting. I'm just seriously asking if you've experienced the field.
Correct.
I'm not a huge fan. Like, I've obviously worn them many times. I still actually do in the winter when I go outside, especially when it's brutal cold. It helps actually cut the wind as much as anything. But you're taking you're ballsy, man. You're on the airplane.
Oh, all that. It was miserable.
I mean, pressure changes, all that stuff. Yeah. And so you were were you cutting like, is this 198 you're trying to cut to?
Yeah, I cut down to 198 for that one. I mean, I made weight, and then it was like, all right, eat up. Well, I still wasn't hydrated. Got back to the meet the next day, went for squats, and I mean, everything felt like a million times heavier. Just because my body, your CNS can only take so much.
Yeah, and this is maybe a silly question. Are the meets always like squat, bench, dead, or does it vary?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's always you start out
squat.
Yeah. And I mean, and squats at the time were kind of my thing. And then this was my first time I attempted I opened with 600 pounds, and I'm like, well, I got 3 shots. So if I don't get it on the first, I got 2 more. It was a horrible game plan.
And at that level, you can't, whatever you go with your opener, you can't go lower than that. Yeah. I mean, that's such a psychological game too. Strategy. Yeah.
So it was a tough lesson to learn, but it was one of those things where it's like, you learned it. Now you'll never do it again.
So in hindsight, next time you open with 185 and you're like, nowhere to go it up, baby.
Nailed it.
I mean, I always tell people now too, it's one of those things where
crowd.
Just go get that first one on the board so you're in the game.
I've heard that too. Like, just
can you
be
go
confident
up
with your opener and then build off that.
Can you go up as much as you want after the first one?
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there's
It's your
not like
choice.
you got to go up 30 and 30 or whatever.
No.
So you could. It's ridiculous, but you could literally start at 400 and then go to 650.
Yeah, like the rule of thumb is kind of like something that you could do for triples on a horrible day in the gym.
Okay.
So you know, something
advice.
that you're gonna like. My last meet at the Arnold, I opened up with 575.
Okay.
And so then after that, I make about 50-pound jumps or so from there. So,
but you're allowed to like warm up backstage and things.
Oh yeah.
I mean, how does that look?
Yeah, they usually have a few squat racks, bench, deadlift platforms. So you're able to warm up like you do. A lot of people you see doing tons of reps, heavy weights. I mean, before they go, I mean, I typically don't warm up any higher than 400 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just kind of get that central nervous system fired up to go. You're going to lift weights today.
Yep. So.
Gotcha. So when you got going back to when we'll have to come back to the Arnold because you had a pretty impressive showing, and I'm excited I got a couple questions to ask about that too, just that process. But as far as like peaking goes and stuff like that. But when you first got into programming, like where'd you start training? What's the best spot in Fargo for you?
And actually I train at probably the least powerlifting gym in Fargo.
Totally agree. Dave and I lifted together. Yeah. I don't know. You probably don't want to let everybody know where you're lifting, but yeah, it's I lifted there with David. It is, yeah.
So should we not say? Is that where we're going with this?
I don't know. It's up to Dave at this point.
No, it's fine. It's just it just turned out to one of those things because there's only so many gyms in town that have childcare.
Oh, sure.
And so that was a big factor for me, because my wife would come and train with me, and she actually has did a few competitions as well. So
awesome.
Which is super cool, like to see you guys at the gym together. I mean, because it's a commitment, right? I mean, how much do you lift during a week? I mean, how many hours do you spend, Dave?
I'm actually usually in and out of the gym at least under 2 hours. If it's over that, it's because I'm talking with somebody or whatever kind of thing.
But are you going relatively daily though?
I used to do like a split where I'd be at least like 5 days, but
so it's really nice to have your significant other like be there. I mean, that's huge. That's
and then the thing that for us, it was almost like a date every day. It was our time alone in the gym and we worked out together. So it was a lot of time together, and we really enjoyed looking forward to it. It was like, hey, an hour and a half without the kids to work out. So
it's amazing how much, like Michelle and I are the same way when we can. It's so rare. But, like when we travel, we were on vacation last month and we're down in Florida, just kind of squeezing in different like hit workouts, just body weight stuff. And some of our friends are like, what the hell are you two doing? Like, and we're like, it's one of the most enjoyable parts of our vacation is actually being able to do that together and sharing that. So I totally get where you're coming from.
Yeah. So
it's
Jeremy and I are just rolling down lazy rivers.
It is Quartz Plus.
I used to be like 20 years ago. I was clanging and banging in that gym.
Yeah.
It's nice because you can get the racks you want, and
that's one of the things. Yeah, because like when Metroflex opened in town, at the point, at that time, everyone's like, "You need to come to Metro," and I'm like, and I know the owner really well, and it's like, I would, but I'm like, I live 2 blocks from the gym, and I'm like,
hard to beat.
Right?
Yeah, and then the childcare thing, so it's like, sorry, I'll make it work.
And even back in those days, from what I remember, like I don't remember having anywhere to deadlift, but their squat rack was pretty readily accessible. It wasn't the most popular corner of the gym. So that was always kind of, as busy as it was like there were certain little niche things you could do and count, consistently perform.
Yeah, and it's been like that for the most part still. Over the years, though, they've been really accommodating to me. Like there's 3 platforms now. We got 3 squat racks. They buy deadlift bars, all the stuff. I mean, like they come to me when they're wanting to get new equipment and stuff. So
they don't want to see you when you're angry. Keep this dude happy.
Instead, they just get to see him in his jorts. It's a better world. I'm pretty sure on Facebook, Dave has a video of him squatting in a thong at the gym. I don't know. The rules have been stretched for Dave.
It's a jong. It's a jeans thong.
Oh,
John. Sounds like
Long.
Chape City.
But I do have to say, like, I used to work out at courts the same time Dave was kind of starting this whole thing. And yeah, they don't sponsor us, but man, they accommodated you big time. I mean, when you started, they had the one rack without a platform.
Yeah.
I mean, and lifting, there was a few big dudes there lifting at that time. And like you said, when Metroflex opened up, they all jumped ship or whatever. But
yeah, I mean, it's definitely an older crowd. Yeah.
I got to ask on that note, and this is some, just I guess, whatever they say, inside baseball or whatever, but up in far, is Sports Center still open? Is that even still a thing?
No, they closed quite a few years ago. Yeah.
Okay. Because when I was, that was kind of the hardcore gym when I was up there.
Yep. A lot of the bodybuilding, some of the power lifters that were competing at the time, that's where they all trained.
Yeah, it was pretty old school. I mean,
I dug
it
for sure.
I dug it. I mean, I went from courts for like 2 years, and then I finished up with like a year at sports, and it was kind of grody at times, but I mean, they went heavy and they went hard, but they were kind of known for a little. I don't know how big the drug scene was in Fargo for real, but they were kind of known as like the steroid gym, and
yeah.
And that was the misnomer that always try to shake if you're working out there.
Well, it's tough when
it's
you have
cell
like,
tech. It's all cell tech.
It's tough when you have like 6 or 7 diabetes bins for your needles at a gym.
I don't remember that.
It's a little questionable.
Yeah, we never really made it over to the Sports Center when that was really going on, because I mean, I was still in college, so like me and Casey still worked out for a few years there. When
nice up at NDSU.
Yeah, and that was just when they added the new
that wellness center. That's hard to beat that too.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, we were again probably at that time not a lot of people lifting. I mean, we had the run of the show then, It was pretty crazy. But talking about Celtech, Jeremy, Dave and I used to hammer Celtech. The grape, there was not
the worst.
That's the worst.
Orange. The orange was mine.
I'm a lemon lime, bro.
There was no better way to get about 80 grams of carbs into your life.
So much sugar. It tasted so good.
Yeah, it was fruit juice. It was delicious.
Do you remember all that sugar? Do you guys remember Phosphagen HP?
Yeah. No,
that was so EAS was the first like huge supplement company.
Okay, yeah.
It kind of predate Muscle Tech, and like Shannon Sharp was always promoting their products. And me and my buddies, when we were in Carrington still, we'd drive to Fargo to buy up the Phosphagen HP, which was the same thing, just a bunch of sugar with 5 grams of creatine monohydrate. And I remember, I love Marty.
It's so good.
A lot of respect for Marty Hochhalter, my old football coach, but he pulled myself and my friend Ryan into his office one day. He's like, I don't want you guys on that creatine stuff. It's just another steroid.
The same thing happened in Maddox.
We literally had a lyceum. We had
epidemic.
A lyceum.
It was an epidemic
about creatine and the dangers and evils of creatine.
Casey Hansen's kidney is going to shut down.
Well, though, I remember the worst. Our coach had a senior present on it and do his research, and like his big thing was like, well, creatine causes muscle synthesis, right? It gives you ATP or whatever, gives you energy so you can work out harder. But his deal was like you could gain more muscle. But you know what also lets you gain more muscle? Steroids.
Steroids do, yeah.
Creatine was steroids.
I know.
Yeah. And his big selling point was,
I see the connection.
Yeah, steroids made your testicles shrink because you didn't need them anymore. So creatine also likely would make your balls shrink. So don't take creatine. That was really what I got from that lyceum.
Yeah.
And I said, small potatoes make the steak look bigger, baby. Bring on the creatine.
Well, there's a lot of
protein
synthesis in all your muscles, Casey. Get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it.
I started doubling up.
Get that creatine cock, baby.
Yeah.
Seriously, I mean, you think about
all right, we fell off the rails now.
Nope. This is now creatine cock podcast. Sorry if anybody's children want to listen.
I think
I'm
Celtech
quoting
might
that
get
from
involved.
Nick and putting it on.
Celtech.
Thank you, Muscle Tech, for sponsoring today's podcast.
But I mean, looking back, it's like that was the serious thing you guys were worried about to their students. I mean, now look at it. It's like, oh, hey, don't touch that fentanyl over there. But it's like,
it was funny because he was like worried about creatine, and yet there was like
Yeah.
I was taking way too much ephedrine in my life. Like that was that was big. Like
so you guys still got in. You guys got in on the ECA stack, those early generations of that.
I don't even know if it's hard for me to remember because everybody went to the ephedra, which was like the concentrated ephedrine. And it was so crazy because there was 5, 6, 7, 8 kids taking that before every game. And I mean, I took that stuff too, and that was not healthy. I mean,
not to do, I couldn't take it before sports. It would just, I'd get too jittery.
Yeah. Like it messed with your body. It literally felt like you were working out. Like you would take a pill and sit on the couch and watch TV, and your heart rate was like 150. Like our coaches were fine with that. It was like, oh yeah, it's a pill. It's probably healthy. God forbid it's a powder.
I think those what I'm referring to, like the first generation ECA stacks were like the first, the Gen 1 of hydroxycut.
Yep. Ephedrine, caffeine,
Xenadrine was huge.
And hydroxycut was probably the big one where we were at, but everybody took it. I mean, it worked. I mean, I got to say, now, we live in the world of supplements. Like supplements really don't do crap, right? Like that sucker worked.
Or do they?
They don't, Jeremy.
Well,
shark's fin is about the only thing I endorse.
I want to get to pre-workout. I want to hear Dave's take on his pre-workout and stuff like that. But we're going old school.
Nick,
what's your preferred
creatine? Pre-workout, I can't get away from it.
Pre-workout, I bounce back and forth. Depend on how much caffeine's in it. I mean, literally, it just goes back to caffeine. But I did some stuff where it's like it's got like 300 milligrams in it. It's a little too much for me. Where you get like that jittery. Yeah,
my sweet spot's 200. 200 is like my.
Give me 400 or bust. Let's go.
You're all Jeremy's all the hide. He's when hide came out, you were like, finally.
Jeremy's 7 feet tall, though. That is not fair. 400 milligrams for Jeremy is like 20 for me.
Yeah, you cut that.
Yeah. So Dave probably doesn't know that Jeremy's like 6'9" and like, what are you walking at these days? 270, 260?
265, 270. Yep.
So you haven't lived until you go on a road trip to Chicago with J-Bone and you're pounding caffeine, you're pounding energy drinks. I can't keep up. Just like I can't keep up with beer drinking.
It's a stone cold situation where he's just bashing him on his head as he's throwing monsters out the window.
So like 200's my like sweet spot, but I really like Total War. I'm kind of turned into a Total War kind of guy.
Yeah.
But I usually do. So I think one scoop's like 3 and change. So I try to go like, scoop.
Yeah. And a lot of that stuff, you kind of just, you'll play around with it and find what you like better about it. Like, I mean, I'm one of these guys who like taste wise still, I mean, I still rock the No Explode every now and then.
Ooh. Oh yeah.
And then for me, it's more of the taste. I mean, I'm just like,
They still make that, huh?
Oh yeah.
Is it like still effervescent?
Yeah, it's pretty close.
That was its big selling point. It was like, it's like
crazy,
but better for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and it's like I've stuck to a lot of like the BSN kind of that brand wise for the most part.
They were huge. I mean, they really owned it for a long time. And
Synta 6, that's the best protein out there.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
for
best
taste
tasting
wise,
protein. Yeah.
I mean,
6, you can't beat it.
Sure, I mean, it mixes well with everything. I've had a couple of like local like companies that have like reached out to me, and I had one that's sponsored for like the last competition, but
I can't put my name on it.
Cool.
Jeremy.
We're talking about like, Dave's non-sponsored proteins.
It was kind of garbage, but they paid me.
I'm gonna have to edit Jeremy out. I'm sorry, everybody.
You can. I'm sorry.
But like, I mean, even some of the local stuff that some people make, and it's just like the texture and how it doesn't mix well with stuff. It's just like I'm like, no. And I mean, I use the blender for all my stuff anyways, if I am, and it's still just no thanks.
Yeah.
So
one of the angriest I've ever seen Dave was we used to always throw like a half a gallon of peanut butter into our protein after every
I was
workout.
wondering if you could bring this up.
And one day Dave wasn't looking, and there was one guy that liked to put a banana in with his. Weird. Mm-hmm. It wasn't you though, Dave, right? That was a Jarbo. That was banana.
Jarbo, yeah.
So for Dave's, we threw an entire banana in, peel included.
That's where all the nutrients are.
No, they're
Oh,
not,
God.
Jeremy.
Yes,
That's
they
where all
are.
that is where all the anger is located within a banana.
Oh!
Dave took maybe one lick of this protein drink, and we had a full blender full of it. And we're giggling like maniacs because we're dumb. He takes this thing and he throws it from like 3 feet away into the sink. He's so mad. It sprays out of the sink, covers the locker room. I thought he was gonna tear lockers off the wall. He's like, it's so gross. There was fibers everywhere. Yeah, it was amazing.
That might be maybe
so
I need
angry.
to go back to that. That might be the new pre-work.
Well, I want to know if you got high, Dave, because there was the old wives' tale that you could get high from smoking banana peels.
All I remember was
Dave was never lower, if I'm gonna be honest.
He was not high.
I took a drink of it and it was just like a handful of hair in my mouth from the banana peel. That's what I was just like.
Oh yeah.
I think the stem part became nothing but thousands of hair fibers.
Because that's all I could feel like. And it wasn't like I had a big drink. It was just a sip, and it was just like,
Yeah, we were coming off a hot workout, and he was mad. So for all those listening, the peel is not appealing, so don't put it in your
I thought you were gonna go there. I thought you were
make a mental note. So when you were, I'm gonna get back into some of the maybe
bring it back on track. That's what you do.
Meat and potatoes.
Let's bring it back on
Stay
track.
away from the banana.
We got a top 5 to get to. So when you first got your you obviously probably compete with a singlet on, right?
What's that?
You probably compete with a singlet on, right?
Yeah, we have to. Yeah. And it's just like a wrestling singlet. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I
don't
was
let you compete.
I have a buddy who's done that too. Not the
job. Complete in the job.
No.
Talk about
one day
raw.
we'll get there.
And so I got a question on here about equipped, and I have a buddy who's done some powerlifting as well, and I guess he's given me some ideas on what it feels like, because I've never lifted in like a true powerlifting singlet that's like 2-ply.
Yeah.
What does that feel like to you?
What
advantages it gives you? Yeah.
I've actually only competed in like the raw divisions. I've never did anything like the single ply or like the squat suit or bench shirts or nothing like that. I mean, that's a whole nother ball game. And it used to be really big in like the early mid 90s. Like that was what powerlifting was. It was these guys in squats. That's
huge
all it was.
Dudes. Just like trying to smash records. Yeah.
And the whole gist behind a lot of it was they wanted to, push their bodies of how much they could, lift. Well, the same concept of, knee sleeves or wraps or whatever. It's like, well, I'm going to make a suit for your body, to get under this weight. So there's actually a few guys in town here that are really stuck to like the old school, like equipped lifting. But for the most part, the trend that's going across the country and even locally, raw. And it's just cheaper to get into because I mean a squat suit alone is like $300. So
is Inzer still kind of dominating that?
Yep. Inzer's actually like they're like the big one of the big suit makers. They sponsor the powerlifting section of like the Olympia and all that too. So
what is the big difference for people listening that don't really maybe know the difference between raw and equipped? Like, what are you allowed to wear as a raw lifter versus what they would wear as equipped? And what does that look like from like a number standpoint too?
It's a pretty big difference. Like like if you get a raw lifter who's, say in the 220 class and he's squatting 600 pounds, someone in the equipped side, 220 is probably putting up 800 to 900 pounds.
Really? That's a pretty significant difference.
I mean, it helps. I mean, because it's supporting your body and helping you stay up. And it's one of those things, like if you've ever watched anyone in like the suits and stuff, you see how slow they're going down, even though they have 900 pounds on their back.
Gotcha. The suit alone is stopping them from going.
Yeah. Like the suit can stand up by itself, basically.
A lot of kinetic energy.
I've heard that.
Yeah. And like I know a lot of people who are really, they stick to like their, like once you get into geared multiply, equipped lifting, it's really a hard transition, I think, to come back to raw because it's like you went from squatting 900 pounds back to 450, 500.
Yeah, that's got to be a mental,
so humbling.
beast. Yeah.
So it's one of those things. You always see people go into equip, but you never see them really come back.
Yeah,
because you're allowed, like you said, you're allowed to wear straps. You can wear a belt.
Yep, belt, knee wraps, wrist wraps. Then like your suit alone and stuff like that. So
are you just ever curious what you could do with a suit?
Oh God, all the time. I must say, like there's
but
a
he
kid.
hates him so much, Jeremy.
Yeah, you're right. Like
there's a guy I competed against locally here quite a few times, and we were the same weight class, same everything, and he was raw and I was raw, and I mean I just crushed this guy every time. I mean, like he got under 500 pounds one time trying to keep up with me, and he just collapsed. Like it was like something on a cartoon. Like,
wow.
Was it? But fast forward like 2-3 years later, he went over to the equip side of things, and he's doing 1,000 pounds.
Jeez, wow.
So there's a huge learning curve, obviously, but it's one of those things where I'm like, I wonder what I could do.
Right.
So
yeah.
But for the most part, the federation that I compete in is very raw. So.
And which part are you in?
I'm with USPA, which is the United States Powerlifting Association.
Gotcha.
They're probably one of the bigger ones, along with USA. So they're kind of like the WCW, WWF kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Do you ever use like a slingshot for any type of like overloading for your bench?
I haven't really done much. I've messed around with it a little bit. Didn't really care for the feel of it because it took away so much. But I almost prefer to do negatives. So like say on the bench, but the thing with that is then you got to have, spotters,
get it off you. Yep.
So
I bought one last year, and it's such an awkward feel.
Yeah. It's
kind of fun. I mean, at the same time, it probably added just that one session. I probably added like 25 pounds just that day.
Oh yeah. I had 225 that day.
Did you? But you moved it like 7 feet.
Again, that's like a strongman competition at that point.
It's crazy watching tall guys lift. They got so far to go. I just can't. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
Well, did you watch Vision Quest? Height is an advantage. I found out in the game of wrestling.
It can be.
You can be 112 pounds and 8 feet. And
wrestling not a game.
In the sport of wrestling.
Ain't about wrestling. We've had our moment in the sun.
No, I'll never let this die. But no,
it's a great movie.
Sorry, it's not a great.
So I want to go back. I got this question on here. Do you pull sumo or do you pull conventional competition?
I used to pull sumo. And I did it for
the listener again. What would be the difference? You want to just like take 10 seconds to say, what does that mean?
Yeah. Sumo is like you got a wider stance, like your legs are out like further than your shoulders, and then your arms, you're grabbing inside your legs. Versus
and this is for deadlift.
Yeah. And then for conventional deadlift, you're basically shoulder width, straight up and down, and you're grabbing outside of your legs when you're grabbing the bar. So for me, sumo, I just didn't really have the mobility or flexibility in my hips. And so I'd find myself a lot of times where I'm pulling sumo and I want to lean forward and go on my toes. And it's one of those things where it's like you're either going to get the lift or not get the lift. And conventional, I felt like I could fight through it more. Like if I get stuck at a point, I can, get my hips underneath it, pull back and stuff like that. But I really didn't get into conventional until I was training for Worlds, and I ended up straining my abductor. And I mean, it looked like someone hit me with a baseball bat. I mean, it was just black and blue everywhere. And I had a limited time frame, and I'm like, well, I still want to compete. And I'm like, I can't do sumo. Anything wide was just wasn't working.
Yeah.
And I played around with conventional, and I was able to, make it work even with my abductor that was strained. So I just kind of forced myself out of necessity, and I just kind of stuck with it.
Gotcha. Yeah. I hear a lot of that. Every time I think just about every time I've like kind of strained the muscle in my back, sumo. I mean, you still have that I don't know. I don't know, maybe much my hip anatomy is not built for that type of setup.
Yeah, it's weird because some guys, they can open up those hips like that, and I mean, and it's like boom. I mean, the range of motion is definitely a lot less, but it's not like it's any easier. Like for me, sumo almost feels harder just because of the way I'm built.
Yeah. I get the whole argument though, like the physics aspect of it, because you're not moving it nearly as far. So I mean, it's such a contentious dialogue, but it's kind of funny too.
Oh yeah, it's been going back and forth, like sumo's cheating, blah blah. I'm like, well, each their own. I mean, if I could do it, I would. But
yeah. I think that we always talk about that with our patients too. You know, like everybody's different. I remember sitting in PT school and finding, you know, listening about how there's like, you know, 8-9 different average ways the hip shaped, you know, anteversion, retroversion, you know, everybody's shaped different. And then we would sit in like gait class or like lifting class and be like, this is the one way to lift. It's like, oh, that's weird. You just told me there's like 20 different variations at the hip, and there's
figure it out.
And you try to jam everybody in. So it's good to hear like you can be super successful like lifting comfortably. Like if somebody tells you to lift a certain way and you do it and it sucks, yeah, stick with it a little bit, but like don't feel like you're never going to be doing it because like sumo feels uncomfortable. Like I'll never be good because I can't lift sumo. Like it's nice to hear that. I think it's empowering for people too.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where, I mean, with any lift, even like we were talking earlier about squats, like some people have those wide stances, like almost a sumo, whereas I'm very narrow. I mean, I'm like barely shoulder width apart, but I mean,
it's what you feel comfortable with, I suppose, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it just kind of goes with my anatomy. That's how I'm built, that I'm very quad driven. So like, you know, I have a very narrow stance and it works for me. So
makes sense.
Stick with it. So
yeah, find your strength and build on it versus like try to jam yourself into what everybody else thinks.
Yeah, like
but you need. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, like there's tons of people like their big thing is like one of the cues is to, you know, open your taint. You know, where you should have your legs, you know,
Ed Cone thing.
And with me, I mean, I'm so narrow that it's like there's no opening. This is it. This is what you got.
It's open.
I literally think
it's better to keep it closed for business, I think.
Yeah.
Every time I squat, I think I got to open my taint. I think of Ed Cone talking about that. I don't know if I'm opening it enough.
Yeah, how do you know, really? What's a fully open?
You'll know.
If you hit your PR, your taint is wide open.
Okay, all right. This is the kind of insight we needed from you, Dave.
Open your taint or don't open your taint.
Yeah, I get it.
Either or.
24/7.
So as far as your deadlift grip, do you go over under or do you hook grip it?
Over under. When I first started, I was, you know, I used to deadlift with straps. You know, I wasn't training for anything at the time. So like coming over, I'm like, well, I can't do straps in competition. So I had to really work on my grip, and over under just was more comfortable for me. Hook grip, some people can knock it out like it's nothing, but I think it's one of those things that you got to probably start pretty young or at an early stage, because I mean, it's painful.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't have the dexterity. I can do it for like super light weights, but once it gets heavier, I lose it, and it kills my knuckle.
For me, like I've warmed up kind of doing it, and like 400 is probably the most I can do with it. Anything after that, it's like, nope, not going to happen.
So. Do you specifically train grip, or do you feel like I'll just lift heavy?
No, actually, I do something, and a lot of powerlifters tell you not to do it. But I found myself.
I'll put a disclaimer on the video, dude.
But I do it, and I think it's really helped my grip. And the thing is like, like when you're doing bench, like touch and go kind of thing. Well, I kind of do the same thing with my deadlifts. It's like, I go down under and over, I come down, touch the floor and come back up. Well, in a lot of powerlifting training, they want you to reset with every rep. But with my concept, I'm holding onto the bar, I'm holding the weight the whole time, and I'm keeping that constant tension, which is something I've applied, and it's really helped with my grip. I've never failed a deadlift because I couldn't hold it. Whereas I see everyone else that trains the other way, it's just like, well, they're slipping out of their hands and stuff like that. So I've tried to tell people to do it more my way. that I just locally that I'm like, hey, other people are going to tell you not to, but I'm like, it's worked for me. I mean, I've grip wise, I mean, yesterday I did 505 for 5 reps for 3 sets. Then I did a drop set of 405 for 15. You know, I'm holding on to the bar the whole time. And it's just like, so, I mean, didn't slip out at all. So.
What type of plates do they have there? Are you just training on like traditional steel 45s?
Yeah.
Don't have calibrated, right?
No, Quartz Plus doesn't have calibrated. They just got, you know, a couple different styles of plates, but just basic. I do have calibrated plates in my garage. I mean,
Swanky.
Yeah. Well, I have all the equipment to put on competitions because me and my wife actually kind of transitioned to putting on the competitions now.
Ooh.
So we've been doing that for the last couple of years. So we invested and I mean, I got like a mini gym in my garage, but I still like to go to a gym, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yep.
Very cool. Well, I think I know we're kind of moving through time. This has been awesome. I don't know about Casey and Jeremy. I got one question if you're comfortable with it. Like, who do you, maybe it's a 2-part question. Number one, who do you still really respect in the powerlifting game? Like, who do you try to kind of emulate as far as that goes?
I guess I don't really emulate with, you know, any specific lifter or anything like that. I mean, there's so many lifters and it's just one of those things where it's like everyone does something different. Like I move differently than how you're going to move. So it's weird. Like I see some people that, you know, they train this way, I train this way. And I kind of found my own thing that seems to really work out for how I train. So,
gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then what advice do you got for somebody just trying to get in? Let's say they've been lifting for a few years and they want to train for their first comp. What would you tell them?
For a lot of people for their first meet, it's like just sign up and do it. I mean, so many people are like, oh, I don't think my numbers are high enough yet, or you know, stuff like that. And then there's just the scared factor of just, you know, you're in a singlet in front of a bunch of people lifting weights. So it's totally new, you know, concept and everything like that. So, but it's just sign up for your first one and give yourself some time to train and, you know, worry about you. I mean, everyone's like worrying about, oh, what's so-and-so going to be lifting or something like that. It's like, I mean, it's a sport where you're competing against yourself, really.
You.
Mm-hmm.
So
how would you recommend that they throw a singlet on and maybe hit the mall to get comfortable in it?
Yeah, some people actually, they do that quite a bit. I prefer to throw on my jorts and
Jong.
Yeah.
Jong.
Now, is the jong legal at the mall? What were the rules on that? I mean, there's at some point that's underwear.
Actually, there is a rule about underwear. It's got to be basically like you're kind of a tighty whitey kind of. It's just got to be legless, and it can't be like a compression. So
okay, interesting. Yeah, I guess
like who's checking your undies at this thing? There's a dude that's like, let me see them.
Oh yeah,
that's you. Yeah. That's your job. You're like,
well, when we put on competitions,
these are not 2-ply. These are not 2-ply.
Yeah, no. When we put on competitions, like we have to do a check-in at weigh-in. So everybody, you bring all your equipment, like your singlet, your wrist wraps, your knee sleeves, belt, shoes, deadlift, socks. I mean, underwear, the whole shebang. So
yeah, that's interesting. How has the transition to performer to put on, or I don't know the proper terms, that sound dumb, but like being the guy that lifted to now being the guy hosting these things, like how's that been?
I really enjoy it just for the fact of we've been able to like see how far the sport has really grown from, you know, just a couple of years ago to our meets are selling out 6 months in advance.
Yeah, you can pump yourself up a little bit because you mentioned that 2016 you lifted at Fargo South High School, right? Yeah. How many folks were there, would you say?
There was maybe like 40 some lifters.
And what did you say at this last meet? Was that out in Dickinson? Was that your
last
meet?
Out in Dickinson. We had a 2-day meet with we had over 100 lifters.
Yeah. So just
good job.
A ton of people.
Great.
A nice crowd too. I mean, a lot of people come out.
We typically get about 300 to 400 people that come out for these just to watch.
And you're not just getting like local North Dakota folks, like trying out too, right? I mean, you're getting folks from all over.
Yeah, the last one we had guys come in Wisconsin, Iowa, South Dakota, Montana. Wyoming, and we had a couple guys come from California and one from Vegas. So,
Wow.
and
Growing a ton then.
Oh yeah, and then the thing is too is like, I'll bring in some pro lifters that come in and they'll do a seminar or they'll guest lift too. So that's a big attraction there itself. So
sure.
Ooh, got anybody to name drop?
We had John Hack.
Oh yeah.
At the last one, and he's a pretty big draw because he's number 2 in the world with everything. So
yeah,
it's got to be pretty exciting for you to see that grow. Like I remember being there when you first started, and it was like, maybe I'll go to the school, maybe I'll pop over home and have like a hot pocket and pop back over. Like, well, now it's like a 2-day event with crowds, and I mean, you got music and you got pyrotechnics, right? I mean, you guys, it's like a show, right? I mean,
that was one of the big things. Like when we took over, was I wanted to bring kind of that wow factor, because like the way they've been doing like competitions over in Europe is so much more of a grand stage that they do here. I mean, they're doing lights, they're doing pyro. I mean, they're making,
it's a spectacle.
And so
Ramstein is playing 24/7.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
only in Germany.
So that was one of the things that we invested in, and we got like we got flamethrowers, which when people are up deadlifting. Oh, that's
sweet.
It is. It's really cool.
That sounds great.
Now those are sitting in the home gym as well. So when you're in the garage, like every once in a while, you just fire up the flamethrowers as you're deadlifting.
Oh, you didn't see? Oh, there's a video. I almost burnt the garage down.
I don't think it's approved for garage pyrotechnics.
No, that's not quite tall enough. So
yeah. Well,
nothing makes you lift better.
Don't feel bad. I almost shot my face off with a shirt cannon one time.
Oh, that was fun. This is bashing your face off, but the shirt cannon.
Was this shooting cannons?
It's all fun.
Patients in the gym? I've never heard this story. You're just
no. We were sponsoring a football game.
Happy graduation.
It was my first time. You gotta figure out how to.
There's a
calibration that goes in. Yeah.
And you're dead.
A lot of calibration that goes into it. You gotta know how tight to tape your shirts up.
Oh yeah.
So good job.
So you can teach Dave something. Dave, you can fire shirts off at the next meet.
I actually looked into it. I looked on Amazon actually to try.
You're slick, yeah. Get it going.
So, don't point it at your face, apparently.
But usually we're so close to the crowd. It's like I could probably just throw these out there. So
yeah. Well, hey, we appreciate you so much for taking your time to join us, answer our questions. Hopefully down the road someday we'll get you back on. Love to have you and hear how things are going and any updates on your meets if you're willing.
Yeah, we didn't even we don't have a lot of time left, but like we didn't even talk about like the Arnold, like just like a little bit, like
no kidding. Yeah.
Dave, what happened at the Arnold? Like
I ended up going into the Arnold first weekend in March. Huh? And I went up a weight class, and I wasn't really expecting to place or nothing like that. I just wanted to really hit my goals that I had set for myself. And so I went in, ended up hitting a 640 squat, 400 bench, and then a 675 deadlift. And there was a guy that I could see on the screen that was lifting after me he was in first all day. And I seen later on that I'm like, oh, hey, maybe I got a shot at placing here. And they're doing the awards. They say the other guys' names, and I'm just like trying to do the math in my head. And I'm like, I think I won. And so I'm like throwing my phone to my dad. I'm like, hey, I think I won something. And yeah, sure enough, I got first place at the Arnold. So I hit
because what's that math do? 1710? Is that what
1715, and I won it by 15 pounds. So it was super close.
Yeah, so that would be fun just to have a whole episode talking about the Arnold, because that sounds like a whole event.
There's a whole
that's
cool
the
part of that. You
itself.
Actually you mentioned
speaking
your dad.
Of spectacles, you
got your dad to power lift once, didn't you?
Yeah, I got my dad at the age of he must have been 76 at the time to do a competition with me.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where I'm like, it's not really a longevity sport, obviously. And I looked up and I'm like, hey, all these records are open for the taking. And
you pretty much own the age class.
Oh, Dad.
So sure enough, yeah, he got 3 national records in his first competition because there was.
Oh, that's cool.
I mean, how many lifters are over 70 that are, competing? So it's like, I was like, you just got to show up, Dad.
And did they give your dad like a pass on the singlet and just let him wear his cowboy jeans and button up shirt?
No, he had to wear the whole shebang. It was actually
Dave's dad is the definition of like a cowboy.
It was the first time I ever seen him wear anything but boots. Like he had to wear shoes.
Yeah.
And I've never seen him my whole life ever wear anything else.
I just love that. So I just think it's cool. Like 70, what did you say? 77?
Oh,
76.
76?
I think he was 76 at the time.
Oh, man, just to think, like, again, for people listening, patients, therapists, like, you can load up, you can deadlift and squat and bench in your 70s. There's nothing against it. There's no rules, man.
He's a pretty active guy for his age. I mean, he's still building garages and stuff like that. And I actually got him competing in October here in Fargo because he's 80 now.
Making a comeback run. Is that a new age category?
I'm like, you got a whole, because at this point, I'm like, the records are wide open for 80.
Very cool.
Go, Papa Stensland.
I think that's just a cool story. That's uplifting for anybody. Like,
Casey,
don't be afraid to move.
Sponsor him. You need some big stone on that singlet for Pops.
I'm into it. I've never spent any money.
I'm a little cheddar.
I've never seen it.
Well, let's go.
Let's go.
You're talking about, I'm always looking for sponsors for the Arnold. Just saying.
Just saying.
Let's do
what? I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
You got to hit up Scrooge McDuck up there.
Yeah, let me say, I'm
marketing dollars.
I've
spend it down.
I have a little more power now than I used to. We can open up the purse a little bit. So
I did have one sponsor that I thought was really funny was Perkins.
Tremendous 12.
I wrote a letter to Perkins telling him, I'm like, every competition, this is my pre-competition meal, breakfast. And I told him, the country fried steak with the pancakes and told him the whole
gotta do country fried steak.
Oh, they sent me a thing back. Here's $100 gift card. We'll love to sponsor. I'm like, hey, all right.
Hey. So did you have to put Perkins somewhere on your singlet?
No, I just tagged him in a story when I was eating my meal though.
That was the easiest $100 you ever made.
Gotcha. Well,
I need you to put rock solid right across your ass on your singlet if I'm going to sponsor you.
Get them diamonds up on there.
Big stone, one over each testicle. That's the design. I will not sponsor you unless we can make that work. Sorry.
I don't think that'll be approved, Casey. It's got to pass through the lens of marketing.
You'll never know. You never know. They're very busy. They might just pass it through.
I'll say I thumbs up. All right.
I'll attach 45 pictures to the emails, and the first 43 will be very nice and classy, and then they'll just be tired of them by then and approve it. Don't worry.
You're gonna slide through. Yeah.
They don't listen to this podcast.
It's important to have a plan.
Well, on the notion of competition, here we go. We're on to our top 5. Top 5 songs that just pump you up, get you juiced, whether it's training or competition. So pretty much beyond that, whatever floats your boat, whatever gets you flying high.
For me,
so, hold on, Dave. We gotta
jumping the gun, bro.
Hold on, rookie.
Number 1.
All right. So here's how we do.
It's not reverse order, Dave.
What we're gonna do here, we go. Each one of us will give our 5,
okay,
and then we'll kind of go round robin, and then each will give our 4 till we end up on number 1.
Okay.
Kind of build it. We want to build the vibe, build the tension up a little bit.
I'm willing to fire it off first this time. We like to. One of us will start so you can see how dumb we are, Dave, and then you can go.
Yes, we're very dumb.
So I'll go, Dave. I'll go. Dave will go. Jeremy will go. Nick go. Is that how I'm excited for Nick's list because it's just going to be speed metal.
4 winger songs and
4 winger songs.
Jeremy,
wingers.
Like I said, Jeremy is going to be the Space Jam soundtrack. So I'll start first so people can actually have some good music on their list.
Okay.
Whoa.
How many? Just Just name your corn songs.
All right, just say it. Just say it.
Oh, wow. Okay, my number 5 from 2005. It is the song Bad Country by Avenged Sevenfold. I think it's just a cool, not a band I care that much for, if I'm going to be honest, but there's just something about that song. Hits fast, stays fast the whole time. That like build up to that scream. It's just a cool song. Videos, actually, I have it playing in my mind as I hear the song. Like, just cool speed song. Yeah, I like the song from a band I don't even like that much. Like, there's just something about that song, the speed level. It reminds me a little bit of Queens of the Stone Age, but like a little more rock, a little heavier, so it's like took that cool, like steady, fast beat of Queen of the Stone Age and made it a little harder, a little heavier for me. So Bad Country, Avenged Sevenfold. That's my number 5.
All right. Did you say who's up next, Jeremy?
Jeremy, yeah.
Or Dave?
Well, Dave. How about we go, Dave?
Wait and Bleed, Slipknot.
Oh,
so it's heavy, gets it going. I mean, because at this point I'm thinking aggression. That's kind of where I'm coming from.
That's all I know.
Coming in with that new metal, baby, 1999.
Yeah, that's how I roll. Yeah, the only reason I didn't go that route is like there's just those little bit of slow parts on that song that kind of slowed it down for me, I guess. A little bit.
That's why it's number 5.
All right.
Yeah, you're not getting too far ahead of ourselves.
Jeremy, what you got? You hit him high, hit him high, hit him high. I hit him low.
You hit him low.
Yeah.
We're going straight to the dome. No,
I knew it.
Now that I live so close to Green Bay, I chose Kid Rock. Ba with a ba.
Oh, all right.
Honestly, this is less the song and more the scenario. Small town. They let us as sophomores dress for varsity football games. So there's this whole like everyone is like all jacked up, and we were kind of like there. We was like, I don't know what's going on here. And they would like black out the locker room and they would play it. It's got a nice build to it, and it was just like you just didn't know what to expect. So it got me pretty hyped back in the day. So it's not gonna be on like if I'm gonna go work out now, it's like not gonna be on my playlist, but one that's just all time up there for me.
That's get in the pit and try to love somebody, right? That's Ba with the Ba.
Yeah.
Put him on the map.
Yeah, that part's pretty fat to sing on. Like you said, the build's cool, and actually like the rhyme / rap's kind of a sweet build too. I like that song. It made my short list for sure.
He's got some fun stuff.
Yeah, too bad he just I'm not gonna hit sucks now, but sorry.
You liberal hack, Hanson.
Oh, it's nothing to do with that. He decided to be Leonard Skinner and just make the same songs over and over and over again. Like
Agreed.
Devil Without a Cause was so cool, so different than a lot of stuff you were hearing at that time, mostly because he was a white rapper. I get it. That was a little different, but he mixed rock and rap a little more than a lot of people were.
He did, yeah.
Like rap rock was big at that time, but he was like one of the few guys that went like a little heavier rap. So it was, but then after that, it was like he was over it. He was like, I'm just gonna do country rock and do nothing different, and it was just boring. I'm very disappointed in Kid Rock because I remember it was like 99. Someone was like, what do you think the future of rock music was? And I was like, Kid Rock, man, like he's got a sound nobody else has got.
So you're just mad at him because you were wrong, bro.
Yeah,
and then
I'm super pissed.
He evolved and you didn't.
Crow. I mean,
no, I thought that was the sound that was going to take over, and he just abandoned it.
All right.
I'm unpumped.
Bottom.
Yeah, I'm unpumped now.
Already.
Bring us back. Bring us back.
I'm already surprised. Big kudos to Jeremy. I was expecting 5 hip hop rap songs. So
there's gonna be a couple of those too.
Okay. All right. My number 5, going back to 1987, is not a hair band. I actually have no hair bands on here.
Spoiler. You do too.
A little bit of a swerve.
But they were bands with hair on their heads, right?
Oh, they certainly have hair.
Yeah.
It's I Am the Law by Anthrax.
Okay.
I think they're the forgotten, like, of the big 4. Unfortunately, I really enjoy Anthrax. It's in a lot of ways. The drum riff, I mean, the guitar riff with Scott Ian, just fantastic, and Charlie Benante is like such an underrated drummer, anyways. And it's in a way I've gotten older, and it's kind of you get the Judge Dredd lyrics are a little corny, but yet everything still holds up.
A little bit.
And Joey Belladonna as the vocalist, he just commits to it, So that's my number 5. I'm the Law. It still kind of gets me when I'm training, so that's why it's up there.
Pretty solid.
I will.
Have you seen Anthrax live?
I have not seen Anthrax live. I'd love to.
They're good live.
Yeah,
worth it.
I believe it. I got to check it out.
I saw them on tour with Volbeat. They opened for Volbeat. It was really weird.
Sure, yeah.
Should be the other way, shouldn't it?
That's what I thought.
Yeah, but times change, right? And it's I'm sure their bass isn't as solid as it used to be.
Oh, I refuse. Yeah.
Are you not an Anthrax guy?
No, I am an Anthrax guy. That's why it makes me mad. They're opening for Volbeat. Come on.
Yeah.
But it was weird watching the crowd because it was like they opened up and people were just like not excited. And I'm like, oh, this is the perfect time to get up front.
Yeah, I thought it'd be one of those concerts where it's like, yeah, and now everybody leaves, but it wasn't, huh? Just knowing the makeup of North Dakota, like, oh, Firehouse is playing, great, we'll all be there. Nobody cares about whoever is after.
Yeah,
them. Like,
don't go knocking Firehouse all over the place. And
I think I can.
Shake and tumble. All right, let's move on.
All right, my number 4 from 1999. A little band named Static X on the album Wisconsin Death Trip. Push It. This is a song that hits hard the whole time, especially when you're pumping iron. I mean, you push it. Yeah, you push it. Just over and over again. It's brutal. It's not beautiful music by any means, but there's just something about Wayne Static's voice was like an additional instrument. I mean, the way he could just flow into that sound was Static X could hit a lot of these songs on here. Just that's all they were designed for, was just pump you up music. So Push It's probably the number 1 of them, but Wisconsin Death Trip's an awesome album if you like to lift heavy. That's a great album, but this is the best one of the crop.
They just fall into that category, like that. There was that generation or that moment in time, I guess, where there was a bunch of bands just kind of came out and they were heavy, and they never really stuck with me as much, I guess. I remember that song.
Go back and listen to that album when you work out next time. You'll like it. There's not a miss on there.
New PRs on the horizon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wisconsin Death Trip is a good album.
I'm coming back. All right, Dave.
Number 4.
Oh, Beautiful People, Marilyn Manson.
Woo, all right. Taking it to mid-90s. All right. Right.
Yeah, such a sweet song. I went back and forth on a lot of Manson songs. That was like the first song I heard you play on bass was Beautiful People, I think. That's how
probably
it was either that or a Metallica song. That was like all I knew at that time on music. I was like, Marilyn Manson. Yep. Just nailed it. So
I'm gonna go autocorrect my notes right here so that I have some bass players like name dropped in here for Dave's sake. Everything actually all my comments are about drummers, ironically. It's kind of funny. Apparently it's what does it for me.
Bass starts and ends with Les Claypool. Let's move on.
Ooh.
No, overrated.
I would argue his singing's overrated. He should play bass for a band instead of lead a band.
Just saying.
All right.
He could have joined Metallica.
That's true. Yeah.
He did not play their kind of music. No, Jeremy, what you got?
J-Bone.
At number 4, I'm going to hip hop. Bring him out.
It's about time.
T.I.
Bring him out. Yeah, T.I. Yep. I think competition. I'm not thinking. Again, I rarely get what we're. I rarely get the assignment. So I'm thinking.
No, dude, you're nailing it.
And I'm thinking like going to hoop, not necessarily going to deadlift, but high energy song, and that's it.
Hey, I gotta agree with you. When I sat down on this list too, like I made a huge list, and I found out I had a very different list for like running because I like to run versus like lifting. So definitely. I totally get that. Like if you had like a sit in the locker room before a game list, it'd be totally different than this list I have right now. But I respected our guest, Jeremy, and I went with lifting stuff.
I figured he was a big hip hop guy, so
I don't know if Dave's ever listened to a rap song.
I think Eminem might be as far as I got into it.
All right, well, hey, that'll do. He might see a spot on my list too.
He's on my short list.
He was in my honorable mention. Yeah,
that's fine.
You know,
got Nick.
Yeah, I got number 4 from 2012. Song called Rosemary by Deftones. Not one of their most popular songs. It's kind of deep into the album Koi Yo No Kan, or whatever it's called. Koi no Yo
Is that
Kan.
Spanish?
Japanese, I think.
Oh, is that Japanese for the Deftones?
And it's no, I'm not going to translate it. But
put you on the spot. Do your research, Nick.
It's kind of like it fits my criteria for some of my favorite heavier songs of all time, and that's that it starts with like a slow brood, and then it eventually just like gets really heavy. And there's something about Chino Moreno's vocals, like there's an emo facet to Deftones, right? If you guys listen to them, but
especially their later stuff gets a little questionable for me, but
it works for me. And to this day, I have seen them live, and they are they actually talk about a weird opener. They opened for Guns N' Roses 5 years ago. We saw them at US Bank.
That is
weird. We knew there was going to be a hairband in here.
And they are the heaviest band I've ever heard live. Dear Lord. And it was awesome. I'm actually kind of a low-key Deftones fan. Like Gore is a fantastic album, really good top to bottom. But I think my take with them, you either hit or you don't. And Rosemary is ones that hits with me. Like if I'm really kind of ramping up to a PR that day or a top set, I kind of cue it up, and it still hits me. So
Deftones are a weird band, man. Like you either kind of like them, love them, or just absolutely hate them. Like there's just it's a weird sound. His vocals are odd. I mean, it sounds like he's singing into a megaphone all the time. I mean,
I watched you change.
One of those back to school he hates. I mean, they tried to be a little too musical sometimes for new metal when they could just be screaming and kicking ass. But
man, they've had some massive longevity.
They have.
They've been around since early 90s, and
they're right up there with my boys Korn, right? They
dropped an album called Homes a couple of years ago. It's still solid, still rocks. So, and I saw your boys Korn just dropped an album like 7 days ago. So
pretty solid. Yeah, I gotta say, one thing I'll say about Deftones is they've changed their sound, they've adapted through the years, and they still rock out pretty hard too. So I got to give them credit for that. I know, again, I'm a huge Korn fan, and those two had a huge feud for a long time. But
they did, huh?
Yeah, they came up together, liked each other, and then split. Deftones tried to, change their sound a little bit, get away from new metal, and kind of bagged on Korn a little bit for like, dude, you can only write your like journal or your diary one time. Like, move on. Like, you're not teenagers anymore. And that created a little bit of a rift between them. I think it's all fine now. It's water under the bridge.
How big was that rift compared to like our previous Faith No More Red Hot Chili Peppers talk? Was it equal?
Probably equal, I would say, and it's tough too, because it's probably a similar deal where it's like, well, Korn stayed to the formula and were way more popular, where Deftones tried to advance their sound and have maintained through the years, but never had that kind of success. Probably the Korn had. I mean,
I'm out of those two, I'm a Deftones guy, but not like massively.
Yeah,
I can appreciate both. All right, Casey.
Great segue to my number 3 from 2002, from the album Untouchables, is Korn, Here to Stay. That is such a wall of sound. Like, that whole song the whole time is just heavy sound. It never stops. It beats you down. The lyrics are just about turning hate into anger and bashing your face into a mirror, and it just gets me pumped up. I mean, I had a few Korn songs on my short list, and this is just the one that I always go back to, man. It is that album is so overproduced. That Untouchables album, I think, cost them about $5 million to make.
Oh, really?
Jeez.
So it's kind of cool to go back and listen to. I suppose it's like back in the 60s when you listen to Sgt. Pepper and you're like, this is cool, but also I think you overdid it. That's kind of the same thing with it's kind of the same thing with Untouchables. Like, boy, it doesn't even sound like you guys after you've added layer after layer after layer. I remember their guitarist saying, when they went on tour for that album, they had something like 24, 25 pedals for each guitar player, like just to try to recreate that sound that they produced in that album. But but it's cool. Like that, it's a cool album to sit back and listen to because it's definitely the most, like I said, wall of sound, unrelenting album, and that's the best hit off of that. So here to stay.
Okay. Here to stay. All right.
I had to put
Dave, number 3.
Before I forget, I'm going back to Slipknot. Slipknot made it a few times for me, but you got to think where I'm coming from. It's anger, aggression. Before a big lift, I'm getting slapped, headbutting things, so pretty angry.
Now you've been slapped pretty hard, right? Like,
oh yeah,
you've had some injuries from slaps. Is that true? Some bruising.
At the Arnold a couple years ago, I had a Russian dude slap me
because they don't mess around with their slap fights.
Oh, I needed that at the time, and like there was a language barrier, but I'm like, can you? And and he's like, gotcha. And oh yeah, I had a handprint of a bruise on the back of my head, my neck, like immediately.
So. Those are just fun to watch. If you go on YouTube and just watch some like Russian slap fights. Jeez, So what's the song? You said Slipknot, and which song?
Before I forget, Slipknot.
Oh,
yeah. And Dave and I
for a second there, I thought you were like gonna forget the song. And you said,
yeah.
Dave and I recently went to Slipknot, and they I remember when they played that song, Dave was pretty pumped. He told me that was the one song he wanted to hear.
I was like, I could have heard that. Could have heard that and went home.
That's great.
We didn't though. We were old men staying to the end.
Sure. For you.
Then we walked.
Get your money's worth.
Hours and hours.
Hours of walking.
We spent good money on these tickets. These little kids have no idea what's going on.
There was a lot older people than us there.
Oh,
we were like the middle of the crowd.
Or the child that ran into the crowd. Do you remember
that? Babies in the crowd.
Oh, there's like 2-3-year-old kid that just with some mom, just like kid running in and out of the crowd. I'm like, oh man, this is not good.
I'm like quite the element of danger.
Yeah.
Just punching groins left and right. That's how you make your name.
Awesome. All right. I had some Slipknot. I had a couple Slipknots on my honorable mention too.
As did I.
Yeah. Go ahead, J-Bone.
Slipknot did not make my list or my honorable mention list.
Blasphemy.
However,
not surprised.
Blasphemy. Jeremy's a baller though, Dave. He was a baller hitting that chord.
No, my number 3 is Down with the Sickness, Disturbed.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is kind of back in that time, like late high school when that came out. Like that was pretty. That was pretty. Yeah,
no better sound than that, man.
Dude. Much better.
And I find there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of songs like that. Like the whole song's maybe not money, but the build to that song.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
And I put like Cochise, like Audio Slave, like
on the beginning, level. That build up.
Yes. And then you go like, the rest of the song's like, it's all right. But like
the build up
is so good. And that's where I think like, like kind of the in between whether we say just like pure competition and lifting. And like that build to it, and it's just like, all right, let's go. Boom. And that's my jam. That's number 3.
Yeah, I can appreciate that because when I was going through my list, there was a few songs like that where I was like, God, it hits so hard after like 30 seconds. And like, but I was like, boy, if I'm going to like pump myself up for like a workout, I don't know if it's going to do it the whole time. Because like you said, Cochise is awesome, but then it kind of just settles, So I took that off my list a little bit. Like, because I had like Just Got Wicked from Cold and like 96 Quite Bitter Beings, the Jackass song, like just that beginning pumps you up, but then the rest of the song wasn't like as great. So I actually had because I did the same thing. I was like, God, I need a Disturbed song. So I actually went with The Game on my honorable mention because it was a little bit of a longer, like it just held a little longer than Down with the Sickness. But so
they had some awesome. I think they had some bangers after that. More up my alley, but
that whole album though was good, and they had some hits later too, for sure. They got better. I actually love their Zeppelin covers; are sweet that they do.
Yeah, they're not
Good Time, Bad Times. That's a hit.
Was that Godsmack, or did they both do it?
Oh, maybe that was Godsmack. Sorry, wrong band.
Okay,
but you're good.
Cool, Jeremy. You're throwing some surprises out there.
Thinking of Shout 2000, maybe.
Yeah, that was Disturbed. Yeah. Shout. And they covered like Land of Confusion by Genesis.
Land of Confusion by Genesis.
Yeah.
And Sound of Silence was them.
Sound
too,
of
right?
Silence is great.
Yeah.
Great.
That was a big
Talk
hit
about
for
a
them.
build. That's a build song.
Yeah.
You're not going to wait 4 minutes to lift a weight. So
No. I don't know if that one ever really hits. I don't know. But so just like Jeremy's last one, you talk about progressive like build up to a song, and that was like Rosemary that I just mentioned. But my next one, number 3, is not that way. It just starts out hard, fast, short burner. It's Breed by Nirvana. I think it's one of my favorite songs, maybe that they ever did. And it's probably the fastest song they ever did.
Yeah, definitely.
It's hard to find anything that they put out that kind of competes with that. It totally, again, I'm going to name it up, Dave Grohl's drums. That drives that song.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just awesome. Start to finish, it's probably like 2 minutes and 15 seconds, but goes hard, goes fast, and never fails to kind of pump me up. So that's my number 3 is Breed by Nirvana.
yeah, it's like the bridge song, right? From like Bleach to Nevermind. Like it's just because Bleach has a not tourniquet, but there's a few fast bangers on that first album, right? When they were a lot more punk. And then when they go on, that's definitely the one song that felt like a carryover from their old style before they became like a punk pop grunge band. So yeah, Breed that's a cool song. And the way you don't have to like, it's just cool. Like he's just talking and yelling at you. That's a cool song.
Yeah,
I like that. That's a good hit.
His lyrics are so unintelligible in most of his songs.
Oh yeah, you can't make anything out.
You're just like, we'll bread.
Yeah, you can build a house, you can plant a tree, you don't have that. Yeah, that's
but seriously, I think Dave Grohl's drums though on the whole album really made it. I mean, imagine someone else doing it. It just wouldn't be the same.
Yeah. Well, there's something to be said though on some of the, so you shifted some of the slower ones though, and I think I agree with you, Dave, and I think that Butch Vig, he produced that. It's so underrated because I watched a doc on how he took Cobain's lyrics when you like in some of the slow, like Come As You Are and stuff like that with Lithium. He took and layered his vocals like 3 times over, but all those songs have it in triplicate.
Okay.
And I think that adds such a unique element. He even like plays it. He's like, so here's what it really sounded like when Kurt laid the vocals, right? And you're like, oh, that's kind of flat, kind of sucks. So then he's like, here's what it sounds like when I so it's basically the same exact
auto
track,
tune,
but he lays it 3 times over, and all of a sudden it comes out amazing. And it's the song, right? And you're like, that's ridiculous. So something cool to check out if you ever get time is like, how that album was made.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, because I've seen them live. Like, I haven't seen them live, but I have a DVD of them live near the end there. And like, and live they sounded good though. Like, they almost sounded better live. So that's interesting. Like, you would think like their live performance would be kind of garbage, based on that. But they must just do the sound right and have it all prepped out because they sounded great live. Like,
or they were lip syncing.
I don't think that happened.
I don't think so either because they were all
Milli Vanilli.
He was way too high. It's true. He was way too high on heroin to lip sync, I'm pretty sure, based on the live performance I saw.
Yeah.
So that moves on to me now, number 2. Yeah. So a band I just shit on from 2000, the album White Pony. It's Deftones Elite.
Hey, yeah.
I think this is their most badass song. Holy crap. It starts strong, ends strong. You talk about a heavy band. Like Deftones doesn't spring to my mind as a heavy band, but Elite, he is literally screaming the entire 2 some odd minutes of the song. The lyrics are badass. If you're right, you bleed. It's just cool. Like, it's just a badass song. It just never stops. It's unrelenting. I can lift the whole time. It's a song we talked about. I could run to this song. I could lift to this song. I could do anything I need to be pumped up to this song, because this is the ultimate pump up songs for me. Like, obviously it's my number 2. So yeah, it's a badass song from a band that I like less than Korn, but is higher on this list than Korn. So it's Elite from Deftones. There's no more badass new metal band song than this one.
I'm gonna take this as a victory.
You can have it. I'll give it to you. Korn never put out anything as pump up as Elite. That's
awesome. I'm gonna share some track. I'm gonna share
rest
some of my
Korn
Deftones
stuff.
tracks with you and I'm gonna get you to convert.
I own about 8 Deftones albums, so I'm a new metal guy, man. They're good. They're just not Korn good. 8's probably. I don't know if they have that many, but probably have about 6. But
all right. I obviously agree with it. Dave, number 2, man.
Number 2, Dig by Mudvayne. I mean, this is solid, just angry aggression all the way through. I mean, if I'm at the gym, I could put this on repeat for the whole hour and a half. So that's where we're at with it. So it's almost number 1. Almost number 1.
Almost.
That's why they call it.
That's a good choice. Mudvayne hit hard, man. Like, I'm more of a happy guy. I mean, that song did it for me. But hey, man, they were solid.
LD50, that first album. That was a hell of a debut.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, after that, what can you do?
There's some bangers on there, and they're all, you know, they get better musically later. You know, they start to layer their songs a little bit more and get a lot more harmony. But at LD50, man, that is double kick drums like you've never seen in your life.
You just wait. I got a double kick drum coming up.
I feel it.
Is that some Slayer?
It's not Slayer. God, I don't want to jump the gun.
Don't jump the gun. Jeremy, hurry with your number 2.
My number 2 is Korn made my list too.
Ooh, what? I like that.
Yes.
Take that, Nick.
That's a life.
That is a baller song.
Now, you guys talked a little bit about your guys' bummy little high school weight rooms. We had one that was equally as bummy, but I think we had the same multi-station lifting, you know, eyes, bench.
Was it red?
Eyes.
Was the padding red?
Yes.
Yes. Sparkles, or like red sparkles.
Yeah, it had red sparkles.
Sparkles on it, but it was just, I mean, it was trash. But anyways, somebody had left a Follow the Leader cassette in there. So that's when we lifted. That's all we listened to was every single time. So
a banger album.
Again, probably not something that if I'm in the gym today, it's my playlist, but just thinking like all time stuff, like just brings you back. So
I was a big music video guy, so like the driving the Lambos and Ferraris around and just blowing them up in their tracksuits as they're walking away. It's just like the classic Got the Life. I mean, that was the style at the time, right? Like they were just almost making fun of it. Like, yeah, we got all this money, we're just blowing up. They're driving Ferraris off the road.
It was an era, song. Man. I mean, that was an era on, like, you know, the new metal vibe. People kind of knock it down retroactively.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a cheap shot. Like, you know, when you go back and you live
it is what it was.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't think anybody hit bigger than like Limp Bizkit too, which is such they're such a joke.
These were bands making TRL, right? I mean, they were the only, it was weird. Rock was the only thing challenging boy bands at the time, which is such a weird thing to think of. You know, it was like, here's Backstreet Boys at number 1 at TRL and Korn at number 2. It was such a weird difference between the two. You know, rap had kind of taken a little bit of a backseat at that point.
Yeah. And I'm sounding like I'm knocking Korn, but I mean, I actually really dug the next album, Issues. And that was that had a
Issues is a good album.
So I mean, I've seen them live. I enjoy them, right? I think Narcissistic Cannibal would probably be my favorite song of theirs. That came a lot later, though.
Way later.
I think when they matured a little bit more. I don't know.
Yeah,
I can respect that.
I talked about Get Up being on my short list when they did that Dub Steps Up, same album. I mean, I'm not a dubstep guy, but there's something pumping about like having that many beats a minute. Like that's kind of pump you up too.
Yeah. We can edit in what a cassette is later if some of our younger listeners don't know what that is. It was a real futuristic technology.
How many times did you have to get a pencil out?
We can delve into that later.
How many times did you have to get a pencil out and rewind the cassette because somebody was jamming too hard?
Yeah, darn it. Motley Crue, man. That was my Dr. Feelgood cassette.
What do you got at number 2, Nick?
Anvil of Crom. from Conan soundtrack. No. But
I
is
believed you.
Not shocked.
Yeah, no, I mentioned double kick
Seems
drum.
reasonable.
I actually dropped this one a couple weeks ago with my drumming list. Spit Out the Bone 2016 by Metallica, from Hardwired to Self-Destruct. Okay. Just, I mean, for Lars being whatever he is, 53, he absolutely destroys that song. It's so good. Got into it. I saw like the concert that I got to see them in Sioux Falls in 2018, and it was how they kind of kicked off their encore. It was just coming back out and blazing through that song, and I was hooked. I mean, I kind of introduced to it before, you know, you're like, I like it, and then from that moment, I absolutely love it. Hits me hard, and I think James's vocals are really terrific too. You know, he's got to be able to compete and carry it with all that percussion. So
it's a good album.
It is. I think it's an awesome return to form.
I think just the jump from what was it? Was it Saint Anger before to that? Was there something
Magnetic.
in between?
Death Magnetic,
okay.
At least it was in there. But yeah, after you mentioned it on the drumming thing, I went and listened to it, and it's pretty badass actually. Because after Saint Anger, I told myself I'd never listen to Metallica again.
Yeah, I was the same way.
Well,
it brought me back. It brought me back.
Magnetic had some bangers too. Like Cyanide was solid.
Not enough to make up for Saint Anger.
Saint Anger, you know, I don't
tick tock.
Frantic's not terrible. Come on. I think people shit on it now too. It's like so much stuff.
People shit on it then. It didn't change.
It's very different, man. It sounded very different.
That album is garbage.
I mean, I think Hardwired went really almost back to that early roots. Almost it fit. I mean, just the style of it was almost like Master Puppets, Ride the Lightning, just fast.
I agree. Yep.
And that's the kind of stuff I love to play. So I mean, I like it, but it's not what I'm going to listen to at the gym. But
yeah. Mine's Spit Out the Bone, and I do listen to that at the gym. So, all right.
Only one, I would assume. My number one. My number one echoes Dave's number two. It's Dig by Mudvayne. I can't say anything else that David didn't say. Start strong, go strong the whole way. Like Dave said, I could put that sucker on repeat, and just the drums alone would probably get me through most of my workouts. It's just badass. The ending's pretty sweet too. I mean, he just goes crazy there at the end. So just a sweet song. It not only starts fast, but it finishes even faster. So it doesn't peter out like a lot of those songs like we talked about earlier, where you're waiting for the build up hits, and then you're done with the song. This sucker goes to the end, and you want to listen to it to the end. Like the end's the best part. So that's my number one, man. Dig, Mudvayne.
All right. Rock and roll, man. All right, Dave.
I'm up.
Big one. You're number one. What's your Arnold
song? I got some build up in this one, because this is for me getting out in the back, warming up, getting ready to come out on stage and lift weights. Bodies by Drowning Pool.
Oh,
this is what, early 2001?
2001
probably.
That's the Let the Bodies hit the floor.
There we go.
Oh yeah.
One.
That goes.
Nothing wrong with me. Two. There's nothing wrong with me.
That's the build.
It's not quite as monotone as I thought.
And while he's about the time I'm getting the countdowns going on, I'm getting slapped around, and there we go. And it's
that does. Oh man, I forgot about that song. That does go hard.
They had some bangers, man. I mean, I think they did.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they once their lead singer passed away, they definitely never reached that level again. For the Soldiers, I think was probably their only other big hit after he passed away. That's when they had the lead singer of Soil.
I think, did they have that album in like 2004? They had some type of follow-up.
Yeah, it was like Step Up was the next big song.
Yeah, and they weren't bad. I mean, he wasn't bad. And I think they had a little Pantera type of sound.
Yeah. Yep.
Is what I've kind of felt with it.
Mm-hmm. What's crazy was like, maybe 6-7 years ago, they were playing the old Jerry's Bar in Moorhead.
Dave and I have went to some interesting concerts. Literally sat with like 3 other people in a band. And
oh yeah, was it Taproot or Trap that we saw? Or
both.
Trapped had some stuff.
Headstrong.
Yeah, Headstrong.
Taproot, there was about 6 people there when we were there.
Yeah, but I think Trap that album was pretty solid, and then they just kind of never did anything after that.
What was that, like 02, 03, somewhere there?
That time.
I think about 03. Yeah, Headstrong.
Yeah.
It's a solid jam.
When like pop rock was making a little bit of a comeback.
Bodies. That's not a bad choice.
Number one.
Too slow for me with the build up. That's why I didn't make my list.
Oh, you need the build up. Then that countdown
makes it matter. I like that.
I get it. The inhale makes the exhale so much better. Stone Sour. Go on, Jeremy.
Go on. But I digress. My number one, it's Eminem, Lose Yourself.
Oof.
okay.
Good one on my short list.
Not surprising.
That's a basketball song.
You know, the song's great enough itself, but like when you're watching the movie too, I'm like, you just feel like you can go conquer anything. You know, it's like the underdog story, and you're like, man, I could see myself in some of that, and like you go, yeah, I can go do this. So
you feel like you can freestyle anytime you listen to that, Jeremy?
Yeah. I was probably more like a B rabbit, or not Cheddar Bob than a B rabbit.
A little more Cheddar Bob. That makes sense.
But no, great jam. I like to this day. It's just kind of gives you goosebumps when you hear it. So that's what I want.
Not bad, man. I had Rabbit Run was on my honorable mention.
Ooh,
that one gets me.
Deep dive. Who knew we were doing that?
All right, so I guess I'm finishing out this week. My number one from 1992 by Demons Be Driven by Pantera. Just name dropped him a second ago. It's a deeper track, second last maybe on Vulgar Display of Power. They're big, their
major album.
Put them on, yeah, their major album. Phenomenal, almost a perfect album in my opinion, start to finish. But by Demons Be Driven is a deep one in there. Starts with a little bit of a slow burn, but man, once they get going, it's hammering the whole way through. Amazing. I mean, the vocals, Phil Anselmo's great, right? Pretty consistent, I mean, for him. But it's a great showcase of those two brothers playing guitar and drumming between Vinnie Paul and Dimebag Darrell. Those two, they're the dudes in this song. And if you're not familiar with it, guys, go check it out. It's so damn good, and it never fails. Like, I'm not always thinking to play it, but I have it on a few different playlists that I have, and when I shuffle through and it hits, god dang, it just sends me to the roof. So that when it's all said and done, that's my number one by Demons Be Driven.
I'll have to play it when I'm watching highlights of Bone Tomahawk later tonight. So seems like it'll complement it well. Yeah, it's a great list. Nick's forever scarred me. It's all I can watch now.
This coming from the fishhook saw guy, and you're like, it's not really that painful right now. I don't know. It's not the goriest scene.
Gory. This man
all
was
he's got to do is fish,
butt naked. They just tore his body in half.
He's got like a fish hook in her stomach, and he's trying to yank it out. But,
it's not so bad.
It's not so bad.
It's visceral.
She's got spikes penetrating into her neck. Otherwise.
All right, yeah, that's a bad scene. I'm not gonna lie, that's up there. But Tomahawk, man, my mind.
Yeah, told you, and it's a sleeper of a movie too.
Yeah, everybody go see it. Go see
Not
it.
watching it.
I would recommend. So yeah,
looking it up as soon as I'm out of here.
Yeah,
it's a good movie. It's good.
Movie. Seemed good. The 3 minutes I saw before I vomited, it was pretty solid.
Katie's gonna love it.
Seems like a date movie. I would say that. I mean, you're gonna want to set aside some time. We don't talk about how dates end on this show, but after Bone Tomahawk, I don't know how you don't. I don't know how you don't seal it.
Cafeteria.
Yeah.
Set some time aside.
All right. Well, Dave, thanks so much for coming on. Man. I think that stuff's so interesting. It's such a cool world.
Yeah.
I have like a million questions for you still. So I hope sometime we can maybe make this happen again. Well, I got you here. If people want to start, at least in the state of North Dakota, how does somebody get into powerlifting?
Probably your best bet would be like if you know social media right off the bat. Everything is on like the USPA North Dakota Instagram page or the Facebook page. I mean, I run both pages. I mean, I'm updating any competitions that are coming up, how to sign up for it, where to sign up for it. All the info is out there. So
awesome.
Very cool. So hit Facebook, hit up the internet, listen to this podcast over and over again just to get the website. Much appreciated.
At the end.
I know the Arnold's come and gone, so I don't know if you have any sponsors or anything you want to pimp right now. You're good? You got anything?
Yeah, I'm good to go. I'm already looking at next year fishing for some more.
Yeah, so if you want to get on that butt on that singlet, get a hold of David. Again, thanks everybody for listening. We've had a blast. If you want to see our ugly mugs, go to PT Shop Talk on YouTube. We're on Twitter with PT Shop Talk. Our email, if you want to send hateful remarks, Nick is still waiting for someone just to talk us on email. It's ptshoptalk@gmail.com. Also, you can send terrible remarks on our YouTube channels. I was going to ask, is the cow new? That's new, right?
It has to be new.
So like you never had a background before, right?
Michelle is one of our avid YouTube followers. She prefers us on YouTube. She thinks it's too sexy to be on Spotify.
Wow.
But that's when you know you married a good woman.
Yeah. Did she sit through Bone Tomahawk?
But she said, no, I told you she fell asleep. That's the only way I watched it. But
right.
she knocked me for how bland our walls are down in my office / little home gym. And she went and bought, we got some motivational today.
Is a good day for a good day?
Is a good day for a good day.
I mean, that seems legit.
And I'm not quite sure why the bull's wearing sunglasses, but I guess it fits me.
I like that. You just hit the local farmers market in Marshall, and that's the kind of stuff you find?
Yes.
No, this is like Hobby Lobby, I'm guessing.
Perfect. I can't argue, man. I like this. Is more me.
If I spin this around, let me show you this though. You can't see this part.
Oh God, this is gonna break.
Are those cassettes?
Jeremy, have you seen that?
They look like cassettes.
I saw Cinderella on there.
Yeah, Skid Row, underrated 80s band. But yeah, she got that little banger there. I've been staring at that off and on.
That's new as well, or is that's an old hit?
That's all new because I've been boring as shit. So it was time to.
Your branch
I like your commitment to the YouTube channel. Thanks, everybody. You should watch YouTube.
Yeah,
subscribe.
See the cow.
Like it.
Find the cow. Like the cow.
Be
the cow.
Comment on my cow. Smash that like and subscribe button.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening. With us today, David Stensland again. Thanks, bud.
Thanks,
really
Dave.
Appreciate it. Been a huge part of my life for a long time. I'm Casey Hansen. With me is
Dick Doling
and Jeremy Van Kloppenberg.
Until next time, everybody.